Now that Operation Metro Surge is ending, many people are wondering what is being done about all of that fraud that got so much attention before the immigration action. Tonight, a major break in one of the most complicated Medicaid fraud schemes in the state. Here's Lou Raguse to break it down for us. Lou?
Julie, people following these fraud cases might have heard of fraudsters billing Medicaid for non-emergency medical transportation, driving people to appointments. The Attorney General's office has been working on a $2.6 million fraud investigation that they call Pit Stop 66, which stands for Provider, Interpreter, and Transportation. Now the top defendant in that fraud case is now helping prosecutors.
4 groups of people are charged in the $2.6 million Medicaid fraud case known as Pit Stop 66. The recruiters, the drivers, the interpreters, and the providers. First, the recruiters, led by Nazro Takal, who just pleaded guilty, sought out Somali Americans living in Faribault, willing to travel to the Twin Cities for medical procedures they may or may not need. They connected with drivers, billing Medicaid for non-emergency medical transportation services, who allegedly double-billed, overbilled, and phantom-billed for the trips. Interpreters billed Medicaid for claiming to help the clients communicate with medical providers, and at least 3 different legitimate Twin Cities providers, a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, and a psychologist, all pleaded guilty, admitting they helped facilitate the fraud by signing the paperwork handed to them by the fraudsters, accepting the extra business, and overlooking the obvious discrepancies.
Even though more than 20 people have been charged in this fraud scheme, including at least 3 providers, one essential group has not been. More than 300 Somali American residents from Faribault who were recruited to take these rides to the Twin Cities received kickbacks, according to court documents, but have not faced any criminal charges.
Many said their names were being used for billing without their knowledge or permission, and others said they went on some trips but not others, making that part of the investigation more difficult, according to sources with knowledge of the case. The $2.6 million in fraud stood out to the investigators because the amount of money being billed to Medicaid from Faribault was 10 times more than similar-sized cities Red Wing, Cambridge, and Hutchinson combined.
Now, when that top recruiter, Nazro Takal, pleaded guilty, she agreed to testify in the remaining trials. Of those providers charged, the Minneapolis chiropractor is still open, but the acupuncturists and psychologists were both shut down. Besides them, there were many other providers who signed these fraudulent documents who never faced criminal charges.
So discouraging, Lou. It is worth pointing out on this. A lot of this fraud has been charged by federal prosecutors, the U.S. Attorney's Office. This was a state bringing these charges.
That's right. This is the Attorney General's Office Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. So they are handling this case and have been very successful with it. And just a few trials left to go, and they will almost have a 100% record of conviction in this case.
But at the federal level, we have no idea when charges might be brought. Some were pending. They seemed imminent, but now that all those prosecutors left the office,
yeah, what AJ and Legault and I were hearing is that in January and February, they were about to charge a lot more cases in the federal side of it. But now we're at the point where we have to wait and see when the next one is charged before we know where it's going, because there's nothing on the horizon right now.
All right. Thank you, Lou.
Yep.